Chris Hensley is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member of FINRA SIPC, investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Houston First Financial Group are not affiliated.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Money Matters on KPFT Houston. I'm Chris Hensley. The time is now 11 a.m. Central, is what I am so used to saying every single Friday as we go into the radio station. However, we are still on quarantine, and so I'm broadcasting live from my bedroom here at my house that I have converted over to a little studio while we are still in lockdown during COVID-19. I have with me today Dave Pressler, who is the owner of SafeDomes.com. And so this is a company, and we'll have Dave tell us a little bit more about it, that does concrete domes and tornado shelter, and in the Gulf Coast region, I would think hurricane shelters as well. And so we'll do kind of a deep dive into, well, what is that and what's that all about? So please stay tuned, keep listening. We always reserve just the first few minutes of the show to give you a calendar of events as far as what's going on in Houston and in the Gulf Coast region when it comes to financial literacy. And you have heard me in the past talk about Houston Money Week and how we have the free financial literacy classes that take place in April during Financial Literacy Month. So this year that was put on hold because most of our stuff takes place in April. And so since we are on quarantine and lockdown, we weren't able to do a lot of those. A lot of the nonprofit organizations and even the banks that are doing community reinvestment were able to pivot and do some online classes and online training. But what everybody knows us for Houston Money Week is the free seminars and workshops. And so we will be meeting again. The leadership team will be meeting again at the end of this month to go ahead and get a jump on 2021 to see what that looks like. And so that's what I was just really giving you a sneak peek to. You can always find out more about Houston Money Week at houstonmoneyweek.org. With that, Dave, thank you for waiting very, very patiently. I usually set up our topic today by pulling a quotation or some kind of factual information about bunkers or about whatever we're talking about. And so I went into Google and I put bunker quotes in there, and the first thing that came up was Archie Bunker quotes. So I decided to go a little bit different direction with that. It did bring up images though of the 1950s and the Cold War and the idea of everybody having kind of a bunker in their backyard as far as safety and that sort of thing. And so that was kind of going on in my mind there, because I know 2020 has been throwing a lot of things our way. We've got the COVID-19, we've got an election year coming up. Has this done anything for your business this year? Have you been really busy in 2020 as far as people reaching out to you for these shelters?
Well, yes. I mean, last year, and good morning to you, and I'm excited to be on your show.
Well, good morning to you.
Always good to talk to folks, and the saying in my company is, where will you go when the wind blows? Okay. And you don't know what you don't know. Many folks are not aware that homes are now being built that are indestructible. No homeowners insurance. And that's what my company is doing now in Florida. We're building bunker homes. They're basically upside down swimming pools with windows. The entire home is framed with steel rebar, with 6 inches of concrete, all tied into the foundation. If the house moves, the foundation and all has to move in one piece. And I want to be in that house when it moves. So that's the future of home construction. The hurricane that sat over the Bahamas, it was not a hurricane. It was a tornado that sat over the Bahamas last year for 24 hours, 200 plus mile per hour wind. Now, some people will say, oh, that will never happen again. They said the same thing during Hurricane Andrew. Hurricane Andrew was going to be one in a maybe a lifetime hurricane. Well, as a retired firefighter for Miami-Dade County, I saw right then that there was a need for more safe rooms, and that's when I developed the portable 8-ton tornado-proof safe dome. The next evolution in backyard storage sheds that'll save your life. So that's me. I'm on the path of creating a legacy, and hopefully we'll save some lives at the same time.
So I love this. I love this. Dave, usually I miss the intro there because usually I'll let listeners know a little bit about you because you've got an interesting background as well as being the owner of Safe Domes. You were an Air Force radar operator, heavy equipment operator, stagecoach driver. You mentioned the Miami-Dade firefighter as well. And it looks like you've had either a scuba diving business as well, and so we'll get into that a little bit more. But can you tell us anything else outside of that? And that's a lot, but just so that listeners can get to know you a little bit better.
Well, I'm a product of my dad, who was what would be called today an entrepreneur. And he was a self-made businessman. And here's a little history that have you ever heard of waste management?
I have.
Okay, they're internationally known. And if not for my dad, who had a landfill in North Miami, Harry Huizinga would have never had the opportunity to organize all the truck drivers in South Florida and create Southern Sanitation that later became Waste Management. But and so from as being with my dad for all those years and inheriting his company, I as you say, with all my background, I've just tried to become an innovator. I would say, yeah.
Well, I love it. The idea of the Safe Dome. I've kind of been looking at dome homes for quite a while. The whole Bucky Fuller, and then the idea of being able to spray the concrete around them, and so that's one thing. But the Safe Domes look like they're smaller and portable. What's the difference between a dome home and then the Safe Domes?
Well, a dome home is just larger. The Safe Dome is a 10-foot diameter, 9-foot high backyard storage shed. Used every day, she shed, man cave, store your golf cart in it, extra bedroom, sauna, whatever. But when that tornado comes down the road, you get in it. It'll save your life. And that's the next evolution in backyards. All these metal sheds, gone. If you have a choice between a backyard metal shed or a shed that'll save your life, a prudent person would choose the one that saved their life.
Well, I think you're preaching to the choir here in Houston with Rita and then Harvey. The entire Gulf Coast city, Houston, was underwater multiple times. And as you turned on your television set, one of the first things you see were the stuff, everything that's in the backyard just blowing away. So stuff that's made out of aluminum or even the wood stuff,
exactly,
is not going to help you very much during a hurricane or a tornado.
Well, let me say this. Let me interrupt you. If your house is not or your dwelling is not tornado proof, it's not hurricane proof.
For sure.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. In a hurricane, you're going to have a gazillion tornadoes. And if you live through a hurricane without a tornado ripping your house apart, it's called luck.
What are the costs for homeowners who want to add this? Just generally, I know it's going to be kind of a range, but what would something like this cost somebody to have either put in their backyard or on their off-grid property, or what would they look at for something like that?
Well, we're talking about the 10-foot diameter portable safe dome or a home.
Right. Well, I guess we could talk about both.
Okay. The safe dome I deliver nationwide around $8,000. And the homes, and I really don't like to get back in. I've built domes. The problem with the dome, the bigger the dome, you have to start walking upstairs. The older you get, the last thing you want to see are stairs. So the design I'm doing now on the west coast of Florida with no homeowners insurance, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square feet, about $35-40 a square foot.
So that's very important. What you just mentioned is a lot of you think the explosion in baby boomers right now and people who are retiring. You have to think about mobility issues, and if a lot of the space is up, having to walk upstairs. So it sounds like you've kind of cracked that already, and the design that you have is kind of geared towards not having to mess your back up climbing up the
Well,
stairs.
and let me interrupt you on that. When you're talking about Houston and the flood situation, you're going to have stairs. I build flood-proof homes also, but those homes have an arch of about 15, 16, 20 feet high. So, if you're living in an area where you've got flooding, you need to go up. So
Yeah.
either you get an elevator or you find stairs.
So that's super important for people to know. I know a lot of the houses here locally that were devastated during the last flood. In order for insurers to even allow them to rebuild, they brought the foundation up off of the ground. Some of them we drive by that have been rebuilt. They're 6 feet off of the ground.
Not high enough.
Yeah, I mean it looks crazy, but that's the
Not high enough.
requirement.
12 feet would be the a better height, because guess what? Just like wind are getting stronger, the water's going to get deeper.
And that's true. These events are becoming more and more common, and so having the extra height is going to help. One of the things I noticed is that some of the things that you're on your website here, it says DoD certified. What does that mean?
Department of Defense. I've delivered these the safe domes to Department of Defense, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, for tornado shelters. So they're
Oh, wow.
certified. They're certified as bunkers by the Department of Defense, and also by Miami-Dade County, Florida.
So I love the fact that when we talk about bunkers, I mean, these are things that are really built to protect you and save you. But the idea that it's also multi-purpose, that if until you need it, if you want it in the backyard to use as a shed or anything like that, it can do both.
And while
Let
we're talking about that, I carry a book with me when I go out west, Tornado Alley. It's called The Three Little Pigs. Now, why in the world would people rebuild a house 3-4 times out of sticks? And then what I inform people is, do not bury your safe room under the ground. You cannot find a victim above ground under debris. And now you're going to put yourself under the ground and think that someone's going to find you with 40 feet of debris on top of you. No, do not bury your safe room.
That's a very good point. I know here in Houston, our ground is mostly clay, but besides the fact that we're very flat and we're prone to flooding, other states they're able to do basements and that sort of stuff. You're going to be lucky if you find a basement in Houston at all. So the idea that having the safe room or the panic room above the ground that makes a lot of sense. I want to pivot for just a moment because you also have had a company in the past called Above and Below H2O. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, after retirement from the fire department, I began traveling the world, and I'm a certified rescue scuba diver, and my wife is certified. And while out of South Florida, we have opportunities to take cruise ships and go 3 or 4 different islands in a week. While everybody's shopping for trinkets from China, we're underwater. And so I've developed a photo video company, Above and Below H2O, and it deals in products for above and below the water, including videos and photos. And I have a YouTube channel, The Real, REAL, David Pressler.
And for listeners, if you're driving right now, don't feel like you have to write it down because we'll have that on the podcast notes as well as a link to get you to the YouTube website. Well, that's fantastic. It sounds like you've got multiple companies, multiple irons on the fire there that you're working on. Going back,
Let me interrupt you 1 second. One more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very important thing that I failed to bring to people's attention. You know, we talk and talk and talk about alternative energy. When is the last time you heard anybody speak about alternative fecal disposal? One of the major, probably more so than energy, is the fecal disposal this planet is having. And I'm a representative. My homes will have composting toilets. That should be the future of toiletry. Composting toilets. I just had to put that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a book next to me about homesteading, and one of the things they talk about is bio fuel.
Yeah.
And so this is something, when you said that's something so the idea of having composting toilets and really being able to repurpose stuff, that alternative energy source, sustainability, all very, very important things. So that is a good thing to mention. I don't think people really know much about that.
No, you rarely. It's the elephant in the room nobody speaks about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, before we end the show here, tell us a little bit more about you said, now you still are making the dome homes, but it's not, you said mostly not on the bigger scale. It's going to be the smaller ones. How long have you been doing that, and what can you tell us about it?
After the fuel shortage in late 70s, I began building monolithic concrete homes. And now the design I'm doing is on what would be called a Quonset hut. It's an arch and single story. And the first home I built, was 2 stories. And my legacy got cut short somewhat due to a divorce. And after the divorce, they came to try to tear that house down. They came in with what's called an excavator.
Mm-hmm.
It bounced off to the house. And they came in with a 5-ton wrecking ball. It bounced off. The only way they could tear that house down was with carbide tip concrete cut saws. They had to cut the house down. So I have a proven product, and that was done in 1983. And that's the future of homes. Homeowners insurance, they're not going to give you they're not going to reduce homeowners insurance. I predict it will go up. So if you're building an indestructible home, you certainly can't ask a person for homeowners insurance.
I love it. I love it. So that's a real life story as far as how, say, indestructible, how durable these homes are that are built out of concrete. What would you like listeners to know, or what would you like to share with listeners that I have forgot to ask you?
Hmm. Well, no, the future. The future is off of fossil fuel, taking existing homes and structures, spraying foam insulation on the exterior of old existing homes, and taking existing homes off the grid. That should be the next industry. I think they call it the green revolution.
I
Makes
love it.
perfect sense. Putting people back to work, saving energy.
I love it. I love it. All of that makes sense. It's very the idea that of not having to pay for your energy, or that it's sustainable and something that can get be used over and over. I love it. Well, Dave, thank you so much for visiting with us today. For listeners, if you'd like to find out more, Dave's website is www.safedomes.com, and we'll have a link to that as well on the website. Dave, have a great weekend there.
And thank you, sir, and be safe and be smart.
We sure will. We sure will. You have a good one.